Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Notando and I make videos on construction, lifestyle and travel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for tuning back in. Please do not forget to like a video. So recently someone commented on a TikTok of mine actually that they are doing their first year, and every time they're in a lecture room they are told that QSing is a dying career. Is QSing a dying career? So in this video we're going to dive into that, whether or not QSing is a dying career, what I think about the future of QSing, and also how you can stay relevant as a quantity surveyor in 2025 and beyond. Let's get right on into it. Why do people think that QSing is a dying career? Number one, it's because of technology. Technology is improving vastly, and a lot of the administrative tasks that QSs do are being taken over by softwares, which is very, very true. I've seen that happen as well. Number two, it's cost cutting. A lot of companies are trying to bypass the QS role by getting to outsource it to other people within the construction industry, or to AI or BIM or technology itself. And then lastly, people misunderstand the role of a QS. Like I've said in a lot of my videos, the role of a QS is not one-dimensional. It's not just technical, it's not just measuring. We have three pillars as QSs. You are in the technical field, it's financial, it is technical, and it is also legal. So a lawyer, an engineer, and an accountant mixed into one. So a lot of people just think being a QS, you just do the one thing, but it's a lot of things in this one role. So that's why I think people think QSing is dying out. But what is actually happening? The truth about quantity surveying and how it is evolving. Quantity surveying is not dying, it is simply evolving. And in order for you to stay relevant, you need to evolve with the times as well. But before I get to the part where and how it's evolving, being a QS currently, right, a lot is still required of you. A lot of softwares are also entering the market. I remember I had a conversation with another guy, I think it was from the UK, and he was talking about how he's got this new software that helps QSs do their administration much better. So a lot of the administrative parts of being a QS are being outsourced, but you'd be so shocked at how important it is to know the basics without the software involved. There's still a lot of roles that require a QS to understand how to do a takeoff from scratch without a software, because when you know the basics, you then know how to apply any software that's thrown your way. You actually then appreciate the software for what it can do for you. Recently, actually, I'm adding this to my resume. So since I've been introduced to NEC, I didn't know that there was a software that actually helps you manage the contractual parts of being a QS. So there's this software that I've recently gotten introduced to, which is called Beehive. Beehive is literally like an NEC administrative software. So instead of you putting in a compensation event using a Word document or a letter or a PDF, on Beehive, it does that whole contractual management system where you then click on a button and be like, oh, enter notification, which clause does it fall under? Your contract is loaded onto the software. The clauses are already all on the software. You don't need to be drafting letters from scratch, which is such a relief. All the clauses are there, what your contract terms are, what your contract value is, what the change in the value is. This has taken so much away from the administrative part of being a QS. But I needed to understand how NEC works, the administrative parts of NEC, because it's very administrative, and also the different parts that in which the NEC functions in order for me to easily grasp what Beehive or the specific software does. And I'm being exposed to it now, but it doesn't make that knowing how to administrate the NEC on its own less relevant. So the changes that I'm seeing in QSing, and in order for you to remain relevant, you need to then adapt to the softwares that are being introduced in the different companies. But knowing the basics is still very important, and someone who does not know the NEC will struggle to use Beehive because they don't have that background. They don't know what clauses apply where. It's just going to be like, it's just a system that's used and this and that. But when you actually do have your knowledge and how the contract is managed and what works when do you issue an early warning, when do you issue a notification to a compensation event, when do you do this, when do you do that, you then manage the software so much better. So that's what I'm saying. It's not dying, it's just evolving into different parts, and it's becoming more and more about managing risks, negotiating your value, and also becoming more commercial and contract administrative. So the QS of today needs to be more analytical, more tech aware, more commercial, and more involved in project strategy. So overall, you need to be able to see the bigger picture now as a QS. It doesn't matter what the takeoff is, because that can be done much quicker now. But the fundamentals of knowing how to do it are still so relevant. So as a QS today, you need to be a bit more analytical. You need to come up with creative ways of analyzing data. That's what I've been doing a lot. You need to be able to present your data in a way that's understandable to somebody who isn't a QS. Like, you need to be able to be like, okay, this is where we are, this is what we need, and this is where we're going. And it's no longer predominantly just about takeoffs and a specific way of doing things. You need to be able to apply your knowledge as a QS and put all the 3 pillars that I've spoken about together. A lot of people usually ask me in my other videos, which software should I look into? Which software should I look into? To be honest, if you're still in varsity, do not even bother with a lot of the softwares, because when you start working, you will be exposed to so many different softwares. You can even create your own software to make administrating and your job easier as a QS. I have worked for various companies and I have been introduced to so many different types of softwares, and because I know the foundation of what a QS does and what needs to be done, adapting to those softwares is not the hardest part of the job. And you also then pick up flaws and quirks and perks, and if you enjoy certain softwares, you don't enjoy certain softwares. It's just how the industry is. So you just need to be tech savvy and ready to adapt with whatever software is introduced to you. Don't shy away from that. Don't try to keep to just Excel when a company uses something else. So wherever you're going, I do encourage you obviously to expose yourself to the different software, whether it's a financial management or commercial software, whether it's a technical software for takeoffs and measuring, whether it's also a contractual software. So I will always encourage you to do that. Always be on top of your game, always be eager to learn. Do not put it on the back burner. If a company uses Aconex, Beehive, whatever, jump in there and try to be familiar with it, play around with it, know what's going on, because then from that point, after getting that exposure with that specific software, you level up. So the next job, they'll probably maybe ask, does anyone know how to use the software? If you can, then you'll use it. So always be open to learning. Don't restrict yourself to just being a QS that does things A, B, C, and D. So be more technologically aware and be open to learning and keep learning. And then you must be more commercial. Obviously, depending on your role and where you are, familiarize yourself with the contract, time bars, clauses, what your contract allows, what your contract doesn't allow. QSing is not just measuring, just like I said earlier. So be a bit more commercial in that sense. Also be more commercial in like being someone who always looks at the bottom line. Do your recons even if it's not asked for. Just so if somebody has a question, are we losing money, are we making money, you are able to answer that question with a snap of the fingers, because you've already checked what is being looked for by the company at a higher level. Be more involved in project strategy. The projects will always be changing and evolving, so you need to understand the fundamentals of being a QS and how to apply then this knowledge. Don't just be like a textbook QS. How to apply yourself in the role and use all these little skills that you've learned from just being a QS. So risk mitigation, negotiation skills, contract management, protecting the company, protecting yourself, having your backup communication always backed up by email, having agreements make sense, being on top of your contract and stuff like that. So yeah, always remember that. That's very important as a QS. What roles are dying? So yes, as much as the profession itself is not dying, there are parts of QSing that are obviously dying out because there are improvements. I literally don't use as much paper as I did when I first started in the industry. I sound so old. I do not print out my drawings. I do not use a highlighter as much as I used to. I do not walk around with drawings around because I have a software and there's backup and how to do things. I literally don't have a file where I have things, so a lot of things are much more soft copies. So anything that requires handwriting or a lot of papers, that's dying out. Manual takeoffs are also dying out. As much as manual takeoffs are definitely dying out because everybody uses a software now to measure, but that doesn't take away the skill and how important it is to learn it, especially when you're still in varsity. This is like what I said earlier. When you know how something works manually, physically, without the technology, it's easy for you to grasp whatever technology is thrown your way because you understand what the software is doing. But manually taking off is no longer a thing. No one is there sitting with a scale ruler, taking off a drawing. Everybody's on the computer. The most basic or manual way in which people take off now is maybe through PDF. Measuring through PDF, but there's usually a software that just helps you do your takeoffs. Typing bills by hand, that's definitely not a thing that I see anymore. It seems old school paper estimating. I don't see that also being a thing, especially I've done a lot of tender adjudications. None of them had to be handwritten or anything like that, but maybe it's because I'm not working in certain departments or sectors, but from my perspective, I have not seen that as a thing so far. I think that's also slowly dying out. And then slow and outdated tendering processes. Like tenders are done so fast now, adjudications are done so fast now. Tenders out, people come in, we do an estimation, rate comparison, we get your feedback, we go through clarifications. It's super fast and people are appointed much quicker. So if you want to stay relevant as a QS in the next 5 to 10 years, these are the tips that I'd give to you as an upcoming QS or a QS who's still in the industry and wants to stay in the industry. Cost planning with more modern tools. Familiarize yourself on how to cost plan using modern tools. Commercial management and claims. Focus on knowing how to do the commercial parts of things, not your claims, your variations. Manage that, know how to document that, then you'll stay relevant. That's a very, very good skill to have. That's a very valuable skill to have. People always appreciate that skill. Knowing how to price a variation, knowing how to put in a claim for a variation. Data literacy. It's important for you to know how to compute and understand data, put data together. Usually sometimes you're asked for something that has no template. That's happened to me a number of times. They're like, no, please create this document to me. I just want to see where we are, where we're going, and how we're going to go on about this. You need to then take the data that you have, put it together in a way that's presentable, not as tedious to read by somebody of a higher level, and you just give them the information as clear and as vivid as possible. So you need to learn how to read data and also present data. Another thing that I'd also promote or encourage you to learn is BIM and software measuring tools. This is very, very important, especially if you need to measure at some point. Hopefully the higher you go, the less measuring you do. Thank God. The less measuring you do, so that's great. But I would encourage you to learn how to measure using softwares. This will vastly save your time. It will make you more efficient as a QS. It will make you more accurate as a QS. So never shy away from learning how to use a software to learn or to do your takeoffs, and master that, and then you'll see. Another way, what I would encourage, is getting exposure outside of the commercial business building space. The mining industries or the solar panel industries or electrical industries, those infrastructure industries don't have a lot of QSs, and I feel like they are booming, or there's always some work to be done there. So also try and find ways to find yourself in those sectors instead of also just focusing on being a QS in buildings, even though it's still very relevant to be QS in buildings. But I feel like those other industries are also in need of quantity surveyors, and having that experience also puts you, makes you rare. And it's also like a transferable skill when it comes to working overseas, especially because mining sectors and infrastructure sectors are very similar overseas. But when it comes to buildings and construction, there is a bit of difference here and there, but not that much, if I'm being honest. It's just like different ways in which buildings are built. But let's say the NEC contract is very similar all over the world, FIDIC very similar all over the world, and then JBCC, which is the commercial building contract, that's more isolated to South Africa. So if you were to get another job in another country, you'd probably have to learn another contract in order for you to know how to manage that. But I would encourage you to be open to mining and infrastructure projects as a QS in order for you to stay relevant in the next 5 to 10 years. Lastly, I would encourage you to work on your negotiation and contract management skills. These are super, super, super valuable. And all of these things just take you reading the contract and then applying what the contract says, and then making sure that it is applied within whatever project that you're working in. So if you're a QS, don't shy away from that. Don't just focus on, let's say, doing payments and measuring and takeoffs and tenders. try to also get into the contractual management parts in order for you to stay relevant in the future when the more administrative parts of QSing starts being outsourced to technology and AI and all of that. Yeah, this is why a lot of experienced QSers in South Africa, especially those in mining and MEP and infrastructure, stay relevant. Is because those skills are very, very important and they're still moving forward, and those industries are not just isolated to South Africa. They import the goods, they're working with other countries, so you having experience in something in that field, data centers, data management, electrical works, those things are done all over the world, which is very, very valuable for you. Honestly, when I first started in the industry, I felt like I'm falling behind. I don't know what I'm doing, because when you start off in the industry, it is all about measuring. I just questioned a lot of things. I was overwhelmed. Obviously, there's a lot of changes from coming from varsity to then working. You are at the bottom of the food chain. You don't know anything. And the only work that you're given is like measuring and the small little tasks at the bottom. This made me question a lot. And the volume of the work was also a lot. So I questioned whether or not the industry was for me. But with time and more experience coming, I'm realizing and seeing the bigger picture that QSing is not just about measuring. However, measuring is important in order for you to stay in it and stay relevant and grow in it. But it's also about risk management, the commercial management, seeing the bigger picture. It's about the bottom line. It's about money. And the little things that seem so tedious and boring and stupid are actually so important when you get towards the end. And I remember they used to tell us this, like, guys, your work is not just because you're collecting all these invoices, making sure that they're filed properly, making sure that the invoices, the recounts like this. You're not just, it's very administrative and it's very tedious, but it is so important to this role. You're literally like collecting money, like, and sorting it out to each box that it needs to be in. So now that I can see the bigger picture, I see the value of doing the small things at the bottom as a QS, and that's how I've, I guess, remained in the industry and also have grown in the industry. That has been very helpful to me. So yeah, your value overall is not in how fast you can measure, it's how well you can think and how thorough and innovatively you can think to solve issues. So yeah, issues will always come up. It's about how you work around those issues and how you come up with solutions to those issues to mitigate the risk or to maximize profit or to fix a mistake that has happened. Yeah. What I would tell my younger QS self: learn how to read contracts early, even though you don't have the time shame. So I wouldn't be too hard on myself on this. Understand cash flow and being able to forecast for every single month. This is very, very important because big decisions are made using cash flow. It is very, very important. Don't sleep on Excel. Excel can be your friend, even though sometimes it feels like it's your worst nightmare. Speak up in meetings, even if you are the youngest. This one I'm still struggling with, so let me not. Speak up in meetings when you can. I don't like it. And I'm also seeing people who are much older than me who also prefer not to speak up in meetings. So I'm just like, maybe I can bypass this. But I actually do speak up in meetings now because I'm very confident in the NEC contract. But it's only when I am spoken to and it's something that's pertaining me or it's some clarity that I'm seeking for my work that I speak up. I don't just speak up for the sake of speaking up. That can also work against you because and sometimes you expose a gap in your knowledge when you just yap. Like, yeah, no, I have a love-hate relationship with talking a lot. Yeah, because you know what they say, empty vessels make the loudest noise sometimes. And then your brain is your biggest asset and not your title. So with whatever you're doing, try apply it to your way. In whatever work that you do, if you can explain your logic, that's what it is. If you can explain your logic, even if it gets to the other side and it's scrutinized and they're asking why you did this the way you did, if you can explain why you did what you did and how you did it, you've already won. Because we all think differently, we all have different perspectives, we all understand things differently. And if I can explain how I got where I got with how I thought, what my thought process is, I'm done. It's not wrong, it's just a different way of doing it. Then maybe the other person who's receiving the information can be like, okay, I see what you did there, but I think it would have worked better if you did A, B, C, and D. Then you're working together And also, no one knows everything, and people think differently. So don't underestimate yourself or your brain and how you do things. Just know what you did, where you did it, and how you did it, and why you did it, and be able to explain it. Explaining your logic is 80% of the battle won. Especially if on the other side your work is being scrutinized for something that's off, you can just explain, this is how I did it, this is how I saw it. It is what it is. So no, QSing is not a dying career, but if you're a person that refuses to evolve, refuses to learn new ways of doing things, refuses to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, you will suffer or maybe be left behind, because the world keeps moving and keeps shifting, and you need to be open to changing your mind or being malleable to change and what's coming up. So if you are a quantity surveying student in first year and you're being told that QS is a dying career, depending on why you're doing it and what you want to take from it and what your strengths are within the career, it is not a dying career. You must just be an adaptable person to change, just like everything else in the world. If you're not adaptable to change, you are not going to survive the world moving forward. So be adaptable to change. Learn as much as you can with whatever is being taught in varsity. When you get to work, be open to absorbing information and being taught, and remember to trust your brain. As much as I can say, if I was in first year now, this is what I'd be doing, I know how life doesn't work that way. And I always think about how we're so obsessed with like finding ways to make life easier for ourselves in the future by looking into the people who have done better, or the people who have achieved what we want to achieve. But a lot of the times, the things that you need to do to get to a certain point need you to fumble and fall and stumble and learn for yourself in order for you to efficiently learn that. It's like, for example, telling a child that walking is easy. You can tell them, look at them, stand up, walk, it's easy. One foot, the other foot. But until they do it themselves, they'll trip, they'll fall, they'll scrape their knee. They need to go through it themselves and do it, and then they'll know how not to get hurt, how to balance, how to keep their balance, and how to keep walking. So remember that and have grace with yourself if you are rushing to be like an expert and great in QSing. I can give you all the advice in the world, but you need to go through your own mistakes, your own journey, your own growth in order for you to learn as much as you can. So yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't rush. Take each step as it comes and absorb it as much as you can, and also trip and fall if you must. That's how we learn in life. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was encouraging and you're not in despair. I'll see you later in another video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.